Hello and welcome, everybody. Sara Jones is an incredible woman who I happened to meet by absolute fate and chance, and it happens to me all the time. I was on a flight from Cape Town to Dubai, and Sara was sitting next to me, all curled up, looking like she just wanted to get to sleep. And so I saw her, and then she looked like a very interesting person. It was a very long flight, so I said, struck up a conversation. And I'm so glad that I did, because Sara told me about the work that she's doing, mainly with boys, which sparked my interest. I was like, here's a woman working with boys for a start, and why is she doing this? And then her background in the movie industry as well was really fascinating, and you can read all about that in her profile as well. But Sara, first of all, welcome to our podcast, and hope you're well. You're in Abu Dhabi now, is that right?
I am. Thank you very much, Rashid. Absolutely. I'm here in Abu Dhabi in the UAE.
Yeah. So, Sara, you intrigued me by some of the things that you said. I remember the flight was a nighttime flight. It was dark, and I was looking over at you, and you were looking over at me, and then the conversation just got me quite enthralled. But in the beginning, well, just after you did the introduction, you terrified me a bit. And I was quite shocked because we live near in Cape Town, where Sarah's from as well. You are from Cape Town, right, Sara?
Yes, I was raised there. I was raised in Cape Town. Yeah.
Yeah. About this prison that's not far from my house, and she was telling me about what happens in the prisons and with boys, and a lot of things that are swept under the rug. And Sara has a very strong stomach, I should say, because I couldn't even handle some of the conversations. So I said to Sara, and we've been chatting a while now about her involvement with children, especially with boys. And I said to her, I need to get you on the podcast because the world needs to hear about this, about what's really going on with boys, and especially with the prison system, and the hope that we have in the future. So, Sara, I was very excited and very encouraged by what you did, and I wanted to get you on there. So let's begin, Sara, with just a bit of an introduction, if you can, into how you ended up doing this work. And I know it's not your full-time work, but this is your passion project. Tell us a bit about your journey.
Well, if I have to go right back, I can go back to a reoccurring nightmare that I had as a child, all through my teens. And by mid-20, I was told by my friends, you really need to go and find out what happened. And it disturbed me quite some that I really didn't want to find out what I'd obviously had some mental block about, like a serious mental block. But because of a mental block, I wasn't reacting to things how I could be reacting, because I had this thing, whatever it was, sitting in my mind, blocking my regular thought panel, of thoughts, and without even realizing it was there. So I did decide to go and do some very crazy, it was called heart therapy back in 1997. I don't know what they call it now, but it's very similar to where you get into a relaxed alpha beta state. And I think it's an alpha state. Like when you're reading a book, you're concentrating, the therapist takes you down, and for the next 3-4 hours, I was hysterical. So fortunately that got rid of the nightmare, but it also made me realize how important it is to look into what's blocking your natural flow or your non-biased viewpoint on anything, because we all got our environment that we're brought up in, and we all, it's nurture and nature, no matter what anybody says. I mean, it's definitely a combination. Anyway, so from there, I decided to go and find out what else was in my mind. So I studied about 25 different methods of getting into my head and finding out how to clean my memories, or find out what triggers what and why that. And I did it for a good 5, 6 years missioning on all these different therapies that are around at the time. And I ultimately ended up with holotropic breath work, which I highly recommend to absolutely anybody. Not with the religious side. Some of that back then, they had a bit of a religious connotation, but if you take it as a whole, it is the most powerful of all the therapies that I ever was ever able or fortunate to be able to come across. So what I did from there is I realized that I've now been given all this information, this amazing information that gives me clear movement, and I really understood that it's only through communication or miscommunication that we actually have arguments and we have upsets with each other, or we don't know why things happened, or why did they say that to me? Why did my mom tell me I'm a stupid idiot? Or why are people talking like this? And it made me realize that we're very flippant as we are, and I am definitely still. I mean, I'm now much older, obviously, but thankfully wiser. But communication is definitely it definitely caused my parents' divorce. It definitely caused a lot of my childhood dilemmas. It definitely caused a lot of conflict in other people's lives that I watched, and I saw how they were impacted by miscommunication. And the only thing that I could boil it down to, and at that stage, panic attacks weren't even signed and sealed as a definite. I mean, I was having panic attacks, and everybody just said, well, get over it, hurry up, get over it. And so the whole thing was quite intense at the time, in a typical late teens, mid-20s dilemma. I then decided that I was fortunate enough to go and do all these therapies. I need to now write it. So in 1999, I wrote it. And I said, well, for some people, it might be very obvious that you've got you perceive things, how you attach your world to everything around you is how you take it in. So how you consume information and it's how you react to it is based on what you've learned from the past. I mean, now it's like 101 for most people, but for people who are in dynamic, in any environment where they're not exposed to that. And you could be rich, you can be famous, you can be poor, you can be living off the street. And that was the whole idea, is to just always wanted to just give this information as a gift and have no money involved, just a gift, know that it is all about, we all are actually the same. Come hell, I mean, we all are human. And I'm not going into all I don't want to get into the shooey-wowie nonsense, but it's very factual. We're human. We have our senses, whether we've got 5 or 4 or 3 or 1. That is the power to connect with the world. It puts you in touch with your physical world, which is already, I mean, we won't go into how bizarre the whole world is, because we're atoms moving around, and I mean, that's way too freaky. And you tell that to a teenager and they're just going to bolt and be very scared of it and be more fearful.
So before you carry on, I just want to recap, because then we're going to get into what led you to the work with children, but I really like the background. So if I can just summarize and see if I've gotten it right, which is that you went on your own journey to discover and overcome your anxieties, your panic attacks, and all the rest of it, and you discovered holotropic breathing. Holotropic breathing is a type of breathing which it resembles hyperventilating, but it's not, and you open up new senses of awareness. So it seems to me like you had a personal goal to overcome your fears, your anxieties, feelings in your body that made no sense, and then you went on your own journey, found all these different therapies, and then achieved something within yourself which helped you to give you clarity in how to see the world around you. And you mentioned how to cope and how to overcome that. And then you also went on your on discovering the importance of communication and how words impact us. and also the power of words one way or the other, either to destroy us or to build us, which led you to this part of your journey of writing the book.
Even if people aren't talking, your body language says so much. I mean, it's not just what comes out your mouth, it's how, it's all about personal space. And I mean, it's all to do with feeling, touching, all that as well. I mean, it's you are a sensitive, you are sensory system.
So you want to understand, you went to understand the meanings of these sensory perceptions.
Yes.
Right.
So I got very taken by perception and the studies that have been done on perception. Of course, they're still in very much a philosophical environment, because it's like the mind and the soul. I mean, how do you? They still can't put those two to. I mean, they can do little bits, but they can't link, which is what I've found so fascinating about perception. So that's why
that's led you then to write it down to share with the world.
Yes.
And of course, you achieved a certain level in yourself where you became more at ease and you got rid of a lot of these.
I also discovered that panic attacks are inherited, but
okay, all right. So
there's an element that wasn't told, over the years. You find out.
So it's a wonderful
a genetic, or it can be, it can't be. It just needs to be triggered by stuff and all sorts of things. So it's been a fascinating journey.
So it seems that you undertook your own journey, which makes you one of the most authentic teachers that can be, because it's not that you went to study a particular discipline and then teach it to the world. It was your own personal battle, your own personal journey, and then you overcame that, and then you had a great sense of, you know what, I need to share this with the world. So that's a wonderful place for you to start with, because it's not hypothetical, it's not theoretical, it's not academic, it's real life experience. And so then you mentioned that you decided to put the book. So take us from there, where the journey went.
And the reason why I called it my first edition was called Return to Innocence. But I've always maintained it's a foundation for life. None of the work that I do tells people how they should be. I say, consider doing that. Or this is your base, you're human, you've got senses. That's your base. Work from there. Do whatever you need, but knowing that what comes out your mouth, what you feel, just everything about how you present yourself, live by example without being, overly twee. So you just, it's giving you a base. That was the whole intention. It's a tool that allows you to have a grounding, because we all, I'm sure you know, as humans, we need closure. It's been studied by neuroscientists. We absolutely designed to need closure. And because we're designed to need closure, anything that's unknown is going to remain unknown and flick around our thoughts constantly until we find reason. And
so meaning, so you mean meaning to the noises in your head when you say you need closure? What do you mean by closure?
Sorry?
What do you mean by closure?
Well, closure can be anything. Closure can be anything. So you just need, like if you listen to music, when I watch this scientist talking, when you listen to music and the last part of it just suddenly snaps out, it doesn't go, you feel empty.
Yeah.
So the same with when your mom said something horrible to you, you're not sure why it happened. So it also links closure and the unknown. So you sit mulling around, why did she say that? And until you understand, the same with relationships, until you understand why they said that, why did that person look at me like, why did they laugh at me like that? Why did that feel weird? Why does my skin feel weird? All that kind of, it's all unknown until, you're actually quite normal if you feel your skin and you've got a tingle in your little thumb, because I don't know about you, but I've met, and I know I was as a teenager in my 20s as well, my panic attack made me very sensitive to the touch. or I would feel a sensation in my finger and go, oh my God, I'm dying. Oh my God, I'm dying. And and it just kicks in and it goes onto that hamster wheel, and then you're screwed, because then you go onto that hamster wheel and it just flies off. And
Yeah,
then
I think a
obviously,
lot of people can
and then,
relate
yeah.
to body
So
sensations taking
then they
over.
say, oh, just breathe, but it's okay to just say, just breathe. You actually need to, by understanding the process that's happening in your head or in your body, that's it goes into fear, the fight or flight, and I've had to go on to, I've got to use tablets because I'd gone too far. I got too sensitive. And just because I'm susceptible to a panic disorder, and when things get too stressful, I still have to practice. I go into a fantastic yoga position, and I do all we spoke about on the plane, throw back my hands and breathe. Now I know, and I know that that's when you have a panic attack, you're actually hyperventilating.
Right.
So I was taught by a nurse to go into that beautiful yoga position, legs up on the sky and arms back, and within minutes I am back rocking and rolling again. It's quite amazing.
That's something people can use. So when you're having a panic attack, one of the things you do is lie down on the floor.
Lie down, put your legs up against the wall like that, and put your arms back and open yourself up. And I mean, I've been doing it for 35 years.
Which is amazing, because when you feel constricted, when your body's taken over and the sensations are taken over, there is the need to return to the womb position, to crouch up and to hide away. And this position is now opening up. And then because of all the blood in your head, by lifting your legs up, you're sort of rechanneling that energy. So it's a very powerful practice, and I'm sure you've described all of that. So I think what you mean more on the closure side as well is getting understanding and getting to know what's actually going on behind the sensation. So it's giving context, and when you understand, you can observe, right, and then you can observe rather than being the reactor, because your body has taken over. And with your perception, you're keeping a distance. That's what the awareness is, that what we teach as well is that create a distance from how you're feeling. So that I say to them, they say, I'm sad. I said, no, you're feeling sad. Immediately there's a distance between the sensation of sadness and me, because I'm the one watching. So that's really, really interesting. So then you put together the book, and then from there, what happened? What did you do?
I found that obviously a lot of adults are very at that stage. I mean, they're very such obvious stuff. But when I took it to kids and teens, and they would say, "Oh my word! Wow, wow! That explains all this stuff going on in my head. That explains why I'm anxious, because I worry about why he said that in the corridor to me as I walk by. Why did he biff me like that?" But then when they realize that they're all living also with the same base fact, that your desire for closure, because the unknown is scary, this all links to a very base fact of how we're designed. So it's about, that's why, foundation for life. It gives you, because, I mean, we're floating on a little dot in the middle of nowhere. I mean, how freaky is that? So to just try and bring it right down to some logic, I suppose, is this is your design. It's like saying this is how your mouse works. You put a battery in and you move it like this. This is how humans work. We need to feel closure. And closure is linked to everything that's unknown.
Right.
So if you find a reason where the reason is there is no reason. So why did my dad say that this morning? Well, maybe he didn't have his cup of coffee. Would it be such a simple thing? Who knows? But it's a reason. So, okay, it doesn't go round and round and round in my head. One thing that when I spoke to these kids just a few weeks ago, they were all so nervous about their exams. Their exams were next week, and they all went, oh, they're so nervous. I said, well, think about this. You know you're nervous. Why are you nervous? You're nervous because it's unknown what's on your test thing. So let's remove that level of fear of knowing that it's the unknown that's giving you fear.
Right.
And then come back and go, okay, I've got that feeling wrapped because I understand that. Now let's go into the exam without that fear. You go in the next one where, have I studied enough? Well, you're going to find out when you see the piece of paper, but that's a different thing. But just to get that premature anxiety, not under control, understandable. I'm feeling this because the paper is a note. If you acknowledge it, you become aware.
Right.
And that's what your sensitives and that's why awareness is such a beautiful word. You're aware that your body deals, that's what your reaction is going to be. So then you go into your thing, okay, I understand that I'm going to be a bit weary of this piece of paper. I get that. Let me go to the next stage. The same with everything. It can be put across absolutely everything. That's why it is really a simple tool for life.
Okay, sounds awesome. So you mentioned this thing you were doing with the children. Tell me, where did you go, and what are you busy with as far as that's concerned?
Many years
well,
ago.
before you answer that,
Yeah.
tell me about how you got. Why did you feel the need to work with young men and boys?
Well, I think I had an opportunity to go into the Pollsmoor prison, into the juveniles. Or actually, I didn't even go to the juveniles. I went into with all the social workers there, into the, I mean, they were gang members, they were rapists, they were murderers, and they were, that's called maximum security prison.
Wow.
So, I spoke to 40 men in this one room, and I was young. It was 1999, and I stood in front of all these guys, and I said, dudes, all you have to do is realize that it's all communication, and you see things differently than you, and you feel things differently. Do you like garlic? I don't like garlic. So why would it not have the same, why would your sensory system not have the same confusion or desire to repel sights that you don't enjoy or words you don't enjoy? It's the same. It's all the very basic. They were so receptive. I've never seen, these are grown men. There were 26, 27, 28 gangs of Cape Town. If you go on YouTube, you'll see. And some of the guys actually are on that video that were in there. I watched it afterwards, and I said, I must have been absolutely nuts going in to that cell with those guys.
So these guys were like seasoned criminals, hardened criminals.
Oh, no, they're hardened. And then I thought, okay, so they were so vulnerable, and a couple of them actually came out with me once they got out into the community to talk to the kids.
Wow.
They were so blown, and I got beautiful letters from some of the guys thanking me for giving them that understanding and that reasoning. So I decided to then jump into the actual juveniles and concentrate on, you can't talk to kids under the age of 14 about this because their minds are still they're still in that everything is what you can tell them anything, they'll believe it. You can tell an adult anything, they'll believe it now. But the fantasy world is still very much active before you're in your 13. They say you click over, some do, some don't. So I always go for the 14 to 18, just before you get that real. Anyway, the minute they found the guys in the prisons, I was actually phoned to come back in. I gave them a little booklet to read, and I was called back into the prison because some of the guys wanted to ask me questions and sit with me and explain to them, what do I mean by that? And they went, oh, wow, that's amazing. The same I had when I went to the boys here these are young Arabic boys that live in a very traditional Muslim environment in the desert.
So this is in Abu Dhabi?
This is in Abu Dhabi now, in a region of Abu Dhabi. Literally had 4 classes of 10 guys in each. Their mouths kind of dropped open with this simplicity. And I said to you, you know, you've got 6,000 thoughts going around on average in your brain every day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And they go, absolutely. I said, okay, so let's find 5. Let's take 5. Can you find 5? And they go, okay, here's one, here's one, here's one. I said, and why are they repeating themselves? Because you don't know why they happen. Then you need to give it a reason. So give it a reason. Whether the reason is there is no reason, or as simple as you want to make it, or as complex as you want to make it. But the more complex you make it, the more negative about yourself you make it, the more it's going to spiral you down that insecure route.
Yeah.
So what I do is I've got this beautiful little poster. I think I showed it to you.
Yeah.
The one I gave you had a bit of a spelling mistake. I got a new one.
Okay.
So I'll send it to you. But it's basically, I've got one here. Hold on. Let me grab it.
Okay.
Can you see that?
Yeah, we can.
So
yeah, put it a bit closer. A bit closer.
So basically, we're talking.
Yeah, that's good.
I say to them, this is you.
Yeah.
And this is all your thoughts. And
Right.
as it gets thicker, it gets darker. So now let's lighten your load so you're back at this point.
Right. Yeah.
And what I then leave with so we talk about things, and it's amazing. They were starting, and who else, when you leave, who else can I talk to? So the teacher pipes up and says, you can always come and talk to us. And these are real, like, they're brought up with, I've got to be careful what I say, I suppose, but my perception is that they're brought up in a very sheltered environment, but also very it's all boys school is like any prison system, I suppose. You've got levels of authority amongst the kids. You've got the bullies, and I mean, I went to an all-girls school. I also went to an all-boys school. So you're always going to have that in any society. You're going to have that power level. So how do you cope down here with the power level, the big, strong dude, or the not so strong, the clever dude, the streetwise dude? How do you deal with that? So I'm not telling the boys to go out and talk about their emotions. I'm giving them a tool to help them in their minds, because they don't speak, to find where to put it and to process it, rather than they're never going to speak.
Yeah. So I love what you're saying. Is
a lot of men don't speak, and that's also, it's just the nature of the beast. It's fine.
Yeah. I think context is something very important that you do, is giving them context to the noises in their heads and the feelings in their body. And I was just overwhelmed and very grateful for the work that you're doing, especially with boys, especially with young men, and because they are so needed. They need them because they are our future leaders, our future husbands, our future fathers, and
there's a huge amount of pressure on them.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think, I know we spoke about this, and I'm a bit. I personally, and it's my opinion, which I'm allowed, I find that the feminist era has tilted the male environment in a way that wasn't expected. And I think nobody would ever have known how it would have affected men, boys, and the impact it had. And I think it's had quite an alarming impact, especially with there's so much suicide amongst young boys. And then the boys always have, sorry, that light went on. Sorry, can you still see me?
Yeah, even better. Yeah, that's so good.
All right, there's my battery light went on. I've got it feels like I'm in a battery, a chicken farm. I asked them to turn it off earlier because it was a little too warm. Anyway, so they, the guys, what was I saying now?
I agree with you about that, Sarah. I just want to also just mention that it's really important to know that, there is the feminist movement and a movement to restore balance and, create equality with very humble, noble opinions and intentions, which went a bit too far. And then we have
it's had another impact. Oh, there you go. It's had another incredible impact on the young men. I mean, the fact, one of the things I told you about going to Pollsmoor, and I suppose I shouldn't say it's Pollsmoor, but these kids, one of the very profound thing that happened was I went into Pollsmoor, into the juvenile, young boys, 16, 18, and they were put in a cell together. And without fail, the dominant one of that room got sodomized, whichever one they wanted. And then I had 6 of these young chaps that had happened to them on the very first night they arrived. And every single one of them had reacted a very different way. The one had tattooed all over himself, "I hate women." Another one
I hate women. Wow. Okay.
"I hate women." Because
wow.
It's not about being gay. It's about being dominated by a male, or it's about the bullying. It's not, nothing of this is about being gay. Even, any of the bullying system, none of it. I mean, the fact that some guys go that extra route, I mean, they go, whatever triggers them to go that route, and staying far away from, but the fact that the guys that they do this to have a reaction. And then what do they believe? They believe that the only way they're going to be the bully is to go and do it themselves. So that's an awful vicious circle. And you're never going to stop men raping women if you don't give them some leeway or some kind of grounding to help them and give them tools to, no, you don't have to be this big, strong, sexual beast. You can actually just be quite normal and fine and be loved and adored like you want to be, because that's all they want. That's all we want, is to be. It's all we want. We want to be loved and adored.
Yeah, and to be loved and been treated kindly. And when this experience happens, which is it's so visceral, it's so harsh that it changes how you view life entirely, and it destroys.
But you see, then what this program allows them to find, not to say that it's forgiving. I'm not saying you've got to forgive the people that do this. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that you can find reason and take your power back by realizing that person that did that reacts to the world and to me like that because he also is petrified of the unknown, like I am, because it's built in our design.
Right.
Doesn't know about closure, doesn't understand why half the things in his life has happened. So therefore, he's frightened.
Right.
He's
So
never
it's
going
context
to show you
again.
he's frightened.
It's again context.
He's never going to show he's frightened because he's living in a world that's brutal and it's gangs and it's hectic. I mean, I've told you some of those. I'm not going to repeat them because they were just really.
Yeah,
I've actually met many grown men, and one gentleman was your equal size and stature, brutally got hold of by a group of men, brutally. And it wasn't in the prison system. It was outside of the prison system. So quite astounding what goes on.
So, Sara, I really have to commend you and to thank you for this work that most men would feel intimidated to do, going into the prison systems, and also to have these difficult conversations which are swept under the rugs in all societies, right? I mean, it happens all over the world. It's not only a South African phenomenon.
No, it completely happens everywhere.
And the sodomization of men and boys is something that we need to become aware of and also help them, because these people will affect societies in the future. As they say, abused people abuse people, so that it becomes this vicious
if they
cycle.
don't be told, get some tools to get their control back.
Yeah,
because that's what they lose control.
Right. So I think the work that you're doing is really important, and I would suggest that everybody support you in what you're doing, and also to reach out to you and to do this work along with you. And that's one of my things that I want to do with you, is to do more of this and get the message out and provide tools and techniques for this part of the society, which is vital, which is the men, it's the boys, it's the future fathers, future leaders. Give them context and make them into more robust, whole individuals who, not by
And
their
it's
own doing, have.
internal strengths. They don't have to go and show their big. It's all about having internal strength and strength to know that their awareness is there to protect them and to give them help them get through life and deal with things, because that's what perception does. It's exactly what it does. It's you can control how you respond to things you perceive.
Yeah. So there's a saying that I think it was Wayne Dyer who said, "I am not what happened to me, is what I choose to believe about those
Exactly.
events." And Carl
Exactly.
Jung spoke about that as well. So this is a wonderful way of. They need to hear this, and nobody's speaking about this, and I'm so glad that you do. And I suggest anybody to listen to this to also work with us, because I'm definitely part of this incredible and noble project that you're doing. So, Sarah, in closing, any final thoughts or suggestions on how? First of all, what would be some good advice to give young men, young boys, not only in the prison system or things like that? So, and of
Well,
course, it applies to girls as well, right? So, how do we deal
completely. I
with
mean,
the
we're
feelings?
human, so it's for
Right.
everybody. But
So
I
so
do
these
find that girls chat more, some of them,
they do, and
and they
men
tend
generally keep it to
to chat
themselves. Yeah.
amongst themselves and work things out like that. But guys don't. They don't. Some do, but I think the pressure on them still today, unfortunately, in the 21st century, still is to keep guard, make sure nobody knows what you
Be
feel.
the tough
So,
guy. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and those who aren't, they take the other road and find other means. But I think if anybody on this planet is told that we are designed to need closure, therefore, everything that is unknown, whether it is a reason for a voice spoken to you or an action towards you that is unknown, becomes fearful. Therefore, it twirls in your head. Your hamster wheel starts the minute something unknown happens. Then, and it can be as simple as, why did that person laugh at me walking down the street? That can give you your hamster wheel can kick off in that and you'll go for days. But you know what? They weren't laughing at you. There's something just behind you that you didn't see, but they
Right.
saw. So that's understanding how you can control the awareness based on an innate design. I don't know if it's a flaw. I suppose it's a flaw we have, that we absolutely built to need closure. So
Okay.
if you have that, then you've got all these other, you find reason for stuff that doesn't make sense. And the simplest of reason can just kick it out and move on. To deal
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
other stuff that's a little more, I mean, that's seriously life-threatening, or, a bit
Right.
more
Right. Right.
serious.
So you get more context about the
Yeah,
importance of different things. So Sarah, your work, you have a website and you have an
I
Instagram
do.
account you mentioned.
And we're on Instagram. The Instagram is very active. 80 to 90% of the followers are actually young guys, age 18 to 24, which I've found very fascinating. 10 years ago, I also put the works up on Facebook, and I got over 200,000 young boys
Wow,
following.
fantastic. Wow.
So it's always fascinated me. I shut it down 10 years ago because I didn't know what to do with it. I mean, I literally would watch kids just clicking over. I obviously target to them, but the fact that they're liking it, they're following, outside of following games and soccer and whatever boys look at, they're actually coming onto the site and reading this stuff. I mean, I got 100 followers this weekend just from my one post that I boosted.
Wow, fantastic.
So I can see every 15 minutes a young boy is engaging in it. So it's not out there. I'm not looking for millions of viewers. I'm targeting young men aged 18 to 24 because I can't target younger. I wish I could, but I can't because of the unlawfuls out there. But that's fine. I'll go into the schools and I'll talk to them that way. And that's the plan, to get myself back into some schools.
So I think, Sarah, what you're doing on your own is incredible, and I would love you to have more support and assistance in whatever way to promote and provide more feedback and help others with the work that you're doing. So I'd like to get you on again, and we can speak further about the work that we can do. I just wanted the world to meet you and to know about what you're doing and to get in touch. So how does one get in touch with you in case we want to do
well, at the moment,
you?
it is through Instagram. What I will do is I'll pop an email address on the actual website.
Okay.
I've literally just launched the website. I've got to the SEOs to still do. Now, the one thing is, this poster, I think, is a very amazing little tool, because I actually teach the teachers to get the kids to draw their own poster.
No,
and then they can discuss elements on the poster to work through them and understand them so they can move on.
Okay, that's wonderful.
So I'll have to do a workshop with you and demonstrate that.
Oh, that would be amazing, Sarah. We're out of time, unfortunately,
yes,
but
absolutely.
It's been wonderful having you on here, and I hope people get in touch with you, and also that people become aware of so many things that are happening in the juvenile system, in the prison systems, amongst the boys, amongst young men, and to give that just as much attention.
Even the schooling system, the bullying and all that.
Right,
all that
right,
stuff.
and to give it
you
some
don't need
context.
to be in a prison to be bullied. You just need to be in your social group or around your peers. And so it is a lot to do with helping them deal with that without having to lift their fist.
Yeah,
or do the same thing that the peer is doing themselves, thinking that that's the way to actually deal with it.
Awesome, Sarah. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you again very soon on another podcast as well.
Thank you, Roshan. I truly appreciate it.